Greetings, my fine fellows. Don't pay attention to the Spotify, that'll come into later. For it is I, your local goat, and while I will usually just be happy to talk with y'all today we're talking about some horse shit. Some horse shit indeed. God. So, if you haven't seen me being mad recently on Blue Sky, you might have seen. Hey, Jabooters, how you doing? Hoping you have a good one. Uh, Welcome to the stream, where the goat is gonna be talking about this. So, if you haven't seen my Blue Sky as of late, and I'm going to actually do a whole lot of explaining history just so we can have a full context of a whole lot of stuff. That for people who don't know anything about Valiant Comics or who Bloodshot is, and what this all kind of leads into. Because I think I've definitely mentioned Valiant many a times on my streams and in the past, and how I like these comic book characters and I like the books that they have made. And then the most recent issue of Bloodshot, which is also the first issue of a Valiant book that has come out in a while, after many delays happened. Or I have the page itself. I can just minimize this. But yeah, so just to get the gist of the whole going down is recently, Valiant Comics, a comic book company that has been around for a while. They were around in the '90s. They eventually had problems, like many people did in the '90s, and they went away. They had all their characters. They spread them out because they got liquidated and stuff. Then, in 2011, 2012, you had a bunch of people come together, buy all the characters' rights up for the original ones. So that's your Bloodshots, which is the character we'll be talking about today, your Exo Man of War, your Harbingers, and they did a relaunch with a bunch of those characters, and it's a phenomenal run. I highly recommend any of those runs. You can find all kinds of used trades from that, from all ranges of price. And then what happened is the people who were in charge of it, they had the problem of being involved in trying to get more money for the company for expansion into film industry stuff and games. And then they ended up firing the person who was the head of the company effectively. And then that led to a bunch of the creatives leaving the company in protest, and in turn leading to some various problems. And then COVID-19 happened, and the company had basically shuttered itself to a degree and was like a shell. They were still technically releasing books, and then they made a partnership with Alien Books, who is the current publisher and people behind running Valiant as a comic book universe, and putting out all the books. And they finished up a couple of books that they had done beforehand, and then pretty much were like, okay, we're gonna put out a couple new books. It's gonna lead into a whole event called the Resurgence of the Valiant Universe, which was a very fun little book, and in turn, that was going to, like, it was just a big event. We got a couple minis, some fun stuff. I haven't read all the stuff leading into it and whatnot, but it was good. It was well liked. People who were Valiant fans either were skeptical or enjoyed what they have. There were some parts where people weren't on for it, but it was generally people enjoyed it who were Valiant enthusiasts and or hadn't fully given up, because the books leading into that point were after the head of the company had been forced out, were not very well liked, or either very segregated into this was before the leave and this was after the leave, and whatnot. And so people were skeptical, and then people enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. I didn't even know they were still putting out books, because last I heard all the stuff had happened, and so I got surprised when I saw, oh, they're doing like a little resurgent events once I was able to kind of start reading comics again. And in turn, they then announced that they're doing stuff inspired by the Ultimate line, the Absolute line, and stuff like that, where it's new versions of these characters. Which leads us today, or specifically this week, where Bloodshot Beyond #1 dropped. And so I will now talk about like what we're actually going to be talking about here. So specifically what happened is there is a page in the first issue where you have the main character. He's called Ray Harrison in this version, but essentially he's just a version of Bloodshot, and he's talking about vampires effectively. Like the book is about Bloodshot going to Japan to fight vampires, so you can kind of see like it's easy sell. It's kind of like just going to be a cool actiony book, and then you have the actual panels right here, specifically these two, where it talks about how effectively the vampires are so inundated in government and culture that they're influencing people, like they're synthesizing fake blood so they can get a kick. People can get like a kick out of it without getting bit. People who are being forced into becoming vampires by their parents. And I can pull up the actual page now, I believe. Here we go, where y'all can get a better look of it, and I can just read through the actual dialogue real quick. But yeah, it's primarily these two panels. The Yaka's connections with the government promote a neuromarketing lobby to normalize the blood consumption that messes with the minds of the younger ones. They sell fake blood as a trendy drink. There are kids who want to be bitten to become vampires because their favorite influencer, specifically highlighting there, says they are one. And parents who force their children into that irreversible change just to feel modern and believing that they'll be thankful for it when they grow up. So, if you weren't aware, effectively that is a very obvious kind of parrot of transphobic dog whistles. The influencers being trendy, parents forcing them into it, even though as an allegory it doesn't really work because you say they grow up, but they're vampires, they don't age, and that's like a whole thing with vampire media. But like that kind of goes into the weirdness of like, why is this specifically being said? Because the story is just, oh, Bloodshot's going in to stop some vampires from fucking up people. Like that's the easy thing. Because Bloodshot's whole innate premise as a character is he was a dude who was turned into a weapon, who has no past. He kept giving fake memories, and then broke away from the people who gave him the fake memories, and then chose to help others. Like literally in the 2012 reboot, one of the first things he does after trying to like, because he's trying to find out who he is he runs into a facility like to try and figure out, oh, like, these dudes are doing stuff, I probably find some stuff here about myself, and he sees a bunch of kids being experimented on, and then, oh, okay, no, I have to do this, these children need my help, fuck my identity quest, these kids need help, I have to help them from being abused by like this evil corporation, which is Project Rising Sun, or Rising Spirit, not Rising Sun, but basically that's the core idea of the character. He was a person who was dehumanized and had his agency taken from him and is fighting for others. And you also would later have a bunch of interesting things done by writers like Jeff Lemire, Dennis Camp, and whatnot. And then we had the most recent run, which is done by, I believe someone put the credits somewhere down here, but it's done primarily by an Argentinian writer and whatnot. And so these comes out. We have people, primarily Zoe Turnell, who jump-started this, but I remember also seeing it like first on the Valiant Comics subreddit because we were talking about it just came out, and people were like, hey, this is weird. And I didn't notice it on my first read through because I was also probably skimming through because I was at my parents' place at the time and we were watching shows as well, and we were also about to go out and eat, so I was just like, oh, I'll read through the single issue and then I'll do like more thorough read. And I also have dyslexia, and sometimes, especially when you have like certain fonts, I don't pick up things. I have to reread books a couple times. That's just a thing with me with reading. Like when I'm reading an actual book, I have to reread pages twice or three times sometimes because stuff messes with me. And I just didn't pick it up because I was more focusing on the, oh, there's vampires being used as like a labor force in space and the North Poles. Okay, that's interesting. And just kind of taking that as the whole like bit of note, and then they pointed out to it, and I was like, wait, what page? And then I go back and read through, and then I see this, and I was like, oh no. And rightfully so, you have Zoe and many other industry people just kind of talking about it and putting Alien Book slash Valiant on blast. And that's where it really fucking sucks. Because, as I previously mentioned, I am a Valiant fan. I was hyped for this book. I literally made a tweet where I posted up like, "Oh yeah, I'm really hyped up." I made a whole funny thing about how it's kind of dumb that they're doing an absolute ultimate book style thing instead of doing more stuff. But I was like, I was running with it. I even made a reference to Power Rangers Prime, which is another book I love. That's doing a similar thing where it's a new continuity thing where you can come in and just read it flat and you're good to go. And that's what these books are supposed to be, because Bloodshot Beyond is meant to be a reader-friendly, new introduction, new version of the character that is just boom. You can pick up and read it. You don't gotta have any preemptive knowledge or anything about who Bloodshot is. And that's really why this sucks. Because beyond the fact that you put it's a publisher who had a bunch of time to go over this just on a standard comic book run and didn't pick this up. The fact that this is supposed to be a bunch of people's introduction of like, hey, it's a new version, you don't have to read anything, new story, go for it, pick it up, number one, go for it, no hassle, no hit spots, it's good to go. And then boom, this is how you introduced this character who should be really cool and people should really like. There are really good runs of this character. The Jeff Lemire run, the first 2012 reboot run, are phenomenal. Dennis Camp run is very fun as well, though it ends off easily, and then this writer actually took it over. And there was a couple things in there, but I assumed because they were using Bloodsquirt, who is a meme character meant to be annoying, it was more just trying to be topical and whatnot, but now it's kind of, in retrospect, reading as eh. And so that all happens with this. This gets out, Zoe's thing pops off, and I, like many people, start talking about it. Many other people, like I saw Joe Glass, other people who were editors, Greg Rucka, I believe. I don't know if they made a thing, but I think they reposted someone's thing about it or something. Just a bunch of comic book people talking about this. And eventually, Alien, just a little bit before I did this stream, put out a statement. There's an update from Alien Books. And we're going to read that out real quick, and we're going to talk about how this sort of reads. So I'm going to enlarge it so y'all can read it as I go. So Alien Books writer Mario Mantella sincerely apologizes for the harm caused by the phrasing in Bloodshot #1. While the story takes place in the fictional world of vampires and cults, we understand the specific line of dialogue has been read as alluding to real-world issues, specifically the discrimination faced by trans people. That was never the intention. The original line was written by an Argentinian creator and was unfortunately a case of nuance being lost in translation. We fully recognize that the intent does not erase the impact, especially when dealing with subject matters that affects real-world lives and communities. We are taking the following steps immediately. The dialogue in question will be updated for all digital editions to better reflect the intentioned fictional context. Going forward, all scripts will undergo a more intense review by our proofreaders as part of our editorial process to ensure cleaner and more responsible storytelling. We appreciate the feedback from readers, creators, and industry peers who brought this to our attention. We take this seriously and are committed to learning from it. Alien Books values inclusion, empathy, and creative responsibility. We will do better. So, that is where we are at with this all now. After all of the backlash, I have chicken and mushroom tart. Nice. That sounds delicious. That is where we're at as of late, and we have had a response from the publisher after the backlash and a attempt by them to address the community and like both the comic book community as a whole and people who are Valiant fans and readers like myself, because I'm a trans person and I love these books. I own like a metric crap ton of Valiant like floppies and trades. Like I'm literally trying to get all of the 2012 reboot in trade right now, and that has been a goal for me for a while. And beyond the fact that I thankfully am not going to be having to deal with that when it comes to picking up all the 2012 stuff, because that's all aftermarket at the moment because everything's out of print. It still puts a damper on these are characters and stories that I love that now have to deal with the fact that they have been smeared by. And this is very much a fan perspective what I'm talking about right now, but we'll just further discuss this more as I go because I'm going to be talking about this in different contexts as I go about this. But we have a comic book publisher saying, "Hey, these really like I'm talking about like extremely obvious dog whistles are a example of mistranslation." I think the fact that they're not talking about what specifically was mistranslated is not great. You could address the lines specifically and how they were mistranslated or how it was like the nuance was lost, like the not giving us a example of the dialogue that was supposed to be written through that doesn't really fully me with confidence when it comes to their commitment to it. I could be wrong. It could also just be the fact that they had to make a quick statement because the backlash popped up today instead of on Wednesday. Because the Valiant people and fans are it's a very small community. Like it could have been bigger, but Valiant has just kind of very much become this thing that maybe you know about or maybe you've seen a book for and probably have only known about Bloodshot because he's the big popular character that got a movie with Vin Diesel and stuff. But outside of that, most people don't know who they are, and this is their introduction. Their introduction to this publisher is transphobia and just not being great on a relaunch of a character. And so that really they need to nip this in the butt if they want to address those problems and both reassure people who are readers who have been going with the company and or with the characters, I guess, since I've only been reading a little bit from Alien for a little bit now. And then people who are new who are just like, that's that character that is like saying a bunch of horrible stuff in that new comic book. I don't want to be with that. And so like having this response, it either reads as trying to really quickly put out something or not really being the best. Like it's good that they're addressing it, but it feels like they need to really talk about what happened here more than that. Again, I'm hopes because I want to be positive. I don't want to be the most dour person ever. I try to be a positive person. But the fact of the matter is, this still doesn't give me the best confidence. I want them to do better. I want to see people love these characters and their stories. But this being how they're dealing with it is not the best. I don't know how they didn't recognize that this was going to be a problem, which kind of also follows up why I think the original line being a mistranslation kind of falls deaf on my ears because the Valiant Beyond Universe relaunch thing was not meant to be like a thing that came out now. Originally, the book was supposed to come out in March because it was supposed to come off of the Valiant Resurgence miniseries, which was a whole thing. But due to the whole stuff with the Diamond basically screwing itself over and becoming a massive bankruptcy, they ended up having to massively delay many of the books, like all Beyond titles, and then several trade collections and whatnot. But all this stuff was supposed to be out much earlier, like literally March 2025, right here on the original like variation of the cover, with a different price range too. But that is like where we're at now. The world it is they had several months to look over and just, even if they saw anything, any little tidbit of whatnot that could have caused them any trouble, they didn't address it. And it sucks. It sucks for like people who are fans, but also people who are also probably trying to write the books and be genuine, who aren't assholes. Like, I don't know about AJ Adapu. I'm probably butchering his name, um, but like his Shadowman book was great. Like that was a fun read. I remember flipping through that, and I was having a fun time. Like it's cool. It had like a bunch of neat little tricks where it's like, oh hey, we're doing a play on the Magpie storyline, where there was an evil mind control thing. I know a lot of people really dragged on it for um, Sergio Monjones' artwork, and while I think the guy definitely has some parts where he struggles, the way he and the colorist work with that, or I think he actually colored it himself, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. It's been a minute since I read it, but very fun book, and whatnot. And then you have, on the new Exo Manowar book, it's supposed to be Steve, Orleans, who I remember correctly is, a GLAAD award winning, uh, writer. And so, like, you have all these other people who are probably, cause I don't know too much about them. I know Steve, I can look real quick because I can look up his Blue Sky because I remember he also commented, or believe they commented. Let me just, pop it down so I don't accidentally show you any doodles or dangles. Yes, I think didn't Orlin write something? Maybe. American. Yeah, he. Here we go. Yeah, he is a GLAAD nominated, uh, Media Award artist, or like writer, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to see. Wait, which do you want to see, Sherry? Also, hi, welcome in. Oh, we're talking about the not fun bullshit, which sucks because I like these comic books, but they get fucked over by assholes. I've been here a bit. Ah, okay. Cool, cool. You've been hearing me waffle on about how I'm upsetty spaghetti about people being assholes. And the Dangus and Boobles. Ah, this, the Dangus and Boobles. We all want to see those, but Twitch does not, which sucks. They don't want the Dangus and Boobles. They are cowards. They do not want to go full powerful. They cannot feel the power of Dr. Manhattan's strength, where you unleash your nudity to become a god. But yes, but yeah, you have a GLAAD award winning writer also writing another book, and then I believe Fred Van Letten, who was a person who wrote some of the original, like, in the 90s Bloodshot books and has written some good stuff for modern Valiant as well, writing a prose novel, and I think he is also writing, Harbinger Beyond, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's writing Harbinger Beyond, and he seems like a really good dude too. It's just this one asshole just wants to include some transphobic stuff, and it just screws over these three other people's books. Like that is like a big thing. Like you have the first book that should just be an easy, fun romp of Bloodshot kicking butt, taking names, helping people out. Probably like, I don't know, it's vampire stuff. like he breaks out because at the end of the first issue, he gets bitten by a vampire he's in, and he's trying to probably figure out how to get unvampirize him or fighting against vampirism, whichever variation of like what happens when you get bit, do stuff where he helps free people and whatnot, or free people who don't want to be evil vampires from uh, like the bad guys and stuff. Yeah, an easy sell where you just draw him being cool and blasted people's faces off. Because that's Bloodshot. Is like he's a good dude who regenerates and is like trying to help people out because he got depersonalized. And to me, it really sucks. Because like I said, you have these are characters I like who are getting screwed over. The other people who are working on these other titles now have to deal with the fact that they're being associated with a transphobe and a massive backlash onto things that they're writing and they might be passionate about. Like, I don't know what Steve Olin's like background with Valiant is, but I know AJ and Fred Van Letten are they like Valiant books. They care about these things and are doing well to do all this stuff. And then, oh, oopsie, like controversy, which might endanger like them wanting to write for these characters. And then I also remember seeing a ton on Blue Sky people who want to write for these characters or had in the past or had worked with the previous administrations being very disappointed. I remember Joe Glass talking about how he had worked with or spoken with a number of people who had worked previously at Valiant and was massively disappointed, and I agree. Granted, the problem is most of those people are probably already been gone for years because of all the trouble that happened around 2016, 2015, whatever Harbinger War 2 was supposed to happen. And so that is just disappointing. It's very disappointing from just a general reader standpoint of wanting to see cool books be made. It's disappointing to see creators, because God knows what the artists, colorists, and other on the Bloodshot book are feeling right now. And then you have the other titles being associated with it, and whatnot. But it feels like Alien Books really dropped the ball on addressing that and dealing with this, because they had months to deal with this. Like I said, the original launch of the Beyond titles was supposed to be in March, and so you could have like seen through this, but no editor saw it, no editor said anything, and no one did anything. And if you don't do anything, it leads to shit like this, where everyone's mad at you because you chose to not do anything and just be an asshole. The thing they put out just feels like they're trying to shift the blame, very much so. It's trying to be like, oh, it's a mistranslation, it's all that, and rightfully everyone's kind of calling them on that. I do not know how I want to feel about with a lot of stuff right now, because like again, the other creators are good people and they put out good books that I've read and have never had any of this kind of dog whistly shit in it. But like, if that's like their editorial thing and they're not paying attention to that, and that statement is very weak. It's very much like not fully addressing it. It doesn't talk about like, oh hey, here's the line, here's where we messed up, we need to be better on this. It makes me not want to pick up any of these books, and I want to pick them up. And so I really don't want to have to cancel my subscription at my comic book store, because I was literally telling them how I was super hyped up about it and wanting to come every week, because I don't really come all that often because I have to drive 25 minutes down to them to go pick up a bunch of books. So I usually just go at the end of the month. So, and if I only pick it up like one book a week, it doesn't really do it unless I'm really interested in it. And that's what I wanted these to be. I wanted this to be back in like 2014 when I first went to my first comic book store, and then I saw a cover of Exo Manowar right after the aftermath of fucking Armor Hunters, and was like, oh, this is so cool. I want to read all of it. I want to have that again, where I want to be engaged with this series, because I loved reading it. I picked up that random issue at the event comic, and I fell in love with that series. I love that first Exo Manowar run. And then I picked up Jeff Lemire's Bloodshot run after the Valiant started, and it was amazing. It's so good. I picked up the trades. Like that's what I want Valiant to be. I want people to just pick it up, read some amazing comic books, because that's what the company was supposed to be. Like, say what you will about Jim Shooter and his whole anti-gay thing, the dude did make good books, and like a Valiant is one thing he made. He may have been an asshole, but like he led to some good shit, and then that was also what happened with the people who brought Valiant back. They were fans and they were good people who just wanted to make good books about cool people doing cool things and being good and having interesting, deep things. Like the Harbinger books are super good on like, hey, here's like the X-Men, but it's twisted and doing some fun shit with that, and it's super good. And I love that title and the people who wrote it. And it sucks that we're now at the point where after they got attacked by the right wing troll people on YouTube, the comic skaters and stuff, that like now we have this coming out on their big relaunch, and we're trying to get people back interested. Like after you got attacked because like they hired one woman who was an editor because she had like it's an old controversy. It was like a milkshake thing. I don't remember. She worked on a Mockingbird book for Marvel. I don't remember. It was stupid, probably, because it's right wing chud shit that's just meant to rage bait and get all that going. And then they put out this, so it feels like a betrayal of your readers who stuck with you, and then like you're really not addressing it. Like that's I think as a reader, as a fan, how I feel. And I can only imagine what people who had no idea of what Valiant was before all this, like what they think of like the comics now. And you have a bunch of people saying, "Oh, I'm never going to read any of this because of it," and that sucks because I really like the Jeff Lemire one. If I want to hand people a good book, I'm always like, "Oh, Jeff Lemire, easy sell. It's another really good run. His Flash is amazing. Fucking Sweet Tooth is great. I haven't read the Underwater Welder, but I assume it's amazing. People recommended it to me, and I loved the Bloodshot run. His X-Men run is flawed, but that was because of like Marvel editorial bullshit. But hey, I'm always good for Jeff Lemire, and now I can't recommend one run that I loved of his work. It sucks ass. But yeah, that is effectively everything going on with all that. And it really, really sucks. Because I want to read Tales of the Shadow Man. I want to read Exo Manowar, even though I think it still has the problems where they don't really know what great direction to put Eric in after the first series, and technically the second one. That's a whole other video I was going to make, because I was going to make YouTube videos about all this shit because I was hyped. Same with All New Harbingers, because again, I like Fred Verdun and I like Harbinger. That's another book I loved. And now, fuck, I don't know what to do. It sucks. Sucks a lot. Because fuck you, transphobes. You just have to fuck everything up for the rest of us, don't you? I don't think I've read any of these. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. The one most people know is Bloodshot, because like it's an easy sell. He's a cool action shooty bang bang boy, and it's an easy sell. Like he's got easy iconography and whatnot. So that's the one most people will pick up for. Like I remember Comic Storian. He actually had a couple of backup stories he wrote for one of the runs. It was the one with Tim Seeley on art. But yeah, he had written a couple back up stories because he loved the character too. And so he had gotten to do all that during one point. And so it also sucks like people like that who probably hope to try to introduce the character to others, like Comic Storian and people like myself who wanted to introduce, now have to have this bullshit thrown onto us. But yeah, so that's kind of where it is. It's a sucky situation for people who worked on those other books, the other artists, the artist and whatnot. Look at Marvel and DC, then like comics that expand to old things like the Lost Boys comic, Buffy comics, that's valid. That's valid for me too. I tend to like try to follow a lot of artists and writers, and then just expand from there and pick up like a thing if it looks interesting, because that's always a fun way to see if you're anything. I used to read a lot more indie stuff. Right now, it's a bit minimal, just because money. But like a big thing I always liked was the Power Ranger comic is always good, and then because then that writer went off to do a different book, Radiant Black, which that was the book that that writer did, is amazing, and has that same sort of characteristic feel. And then the Power Ranger comic itself is really good. Speaking of which, I actually picked up the Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover at the same time as this book, which total opposite feeling, very fun, exactly what you want. Um, so yeah. Oh, it's super good. You definitely need to when you can. I have the problem of like I want the next issue now every time a new issue drops because I want the next one because it's so good. I think it's Melissa Florist who's writing that, and they're doing an amazing job. Just doing character work, having a cool twist on the world and continuity things. It's just great. But yeah, I think that is everything I can really talk about with this right now as it's ongoing. It sucks. It sucks donkey turds right now with all of it, but I want to hope that Alien is being genuine and not shifting the blame because I want to be positive, but I'm going to wait and see how things go. So I think that's where I'm going to leave things on. Then on the underseas libertarians, indeed, I shall blast them all in the face. You guys have no idea. I was very pissed off. Like I made so many posts. Oh my god, I made so many posts. If you could see my blue sky, I was very mad.